till I can't no more.
I got the horses in the bag. Horse stock is attached.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Spdrmnkyxxii. Today's video, we'll be talking about Doctor Strange's role in Spider-Man 3. As we all heard, that Hollywood Reporter reported that Benedict Cumberbatch will return as Doctor Strange in Spider-Man 3, and they created different types of theories of what might happen in the latest Spider-Man 3. Some say Spider-Verse, others like me say other things. Before we begin, I just would like to encourage you guys to subscribe if you haven't already, as I'll be covering the latest and greatest of Spider-Man, and also click on the notification bell in order to not miss any of my future videos. Now, in the article, it was said that Doctor Strange might play a mentor figure to Peter Parker. I don't think this is the role Doctor Strange will be playing, as it's clear that this is pretty much speculation on their part on what role he'll be playing in the film. So if I had to speculate on what his role will be in Spider-Man 3, I would say that he won't have a major role, but just be a small cameo, most likely towards the end of the film, or even the beginning, depending on where the story goes. The reason why I don't think he will play a mentor figure to Peter Parker, similar to how Tony Stark did in the MCU, is the fact that with Homecoming and Far From Home proving that's the case, so it would make less sense for Doctor Strange to fill in that role, especially when Kevin Feige said that Peter will be stepping out of the shadows of the Avengers and Tony Stark, and that Spider-Man 3 will be a Peter focused film. So to a lot of us, this is pretty much going to be the most personal film for Peter Parker yet, and it wouldn't make any sense for Doctor Strange to play a huge role in this film, as Peter Parker will have to face the obstacles on what happened at the end of Far From Home, with Mysterio exposing Peter Parker's identity and blaming him for the attack on London. I also don't think that Spider-Man 3 will be a live-action Spider-Verse film because of the points I mentioned before. Not to mention, Tom Holland's Peter Parker is clearly leading towards the Sinister Six, which we'll eventually face. So once we're done with Tom Holland's ongoing story, then I think we will see a live-action Spider-Verse film with hopefully Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. So if I don't think he'll be a mentor figure like Deadline and Hollywood Reporter are speculating, and I don't think this will be a Spider-Verse film, then what role will Doctor Strange play in the film? Like I said before, it's most likely going to be a small role or cameo, similar to his cameo in Thor Ragnarok when he just helped out Thor a bit to find Odin. But for Peter Parker, it probably has something to do with his secret identity being out. So at the end of the film, I do think that Doctor Strange may make everyone forget who Peter Parker is, so that Peter can actually have a normal life, with obviously a few exceptions like MJ and Ned and possibly Aunt May, but that depends on Peter's choice. I also wouldn't be surprised if one of the post-credit scenes, they do plant the seeds for a live-action Spider-Verse. So eventually when we do get to the live-action Spider-Verse film, it will feel more satisfying and more complete, as the MCU has known to build up towards big films, such as they did with the first Avengers film, Captain America Civil War, Avengers Infinity War and Endgame. So I don't see why a live-action Spider-Verse film would be any different, and Feige did say that similar to how Phase 1 was building up to Phase 3, they're going to be doing something similar when it comes to Phase 4 to whatever phase they're going to end up with. On Twitter, I also tweeted that since we're getting Doctor Strange, what if we get a moment similar to that moment in The Amazing Spider-Man issue 500, where for Peter Parker's birthday, Doctor Strange pretty much gives him a present where he brings back Uncle Ben for him to talk to Peter for about, I believe, 5 minutes, and they have this heartfelt moment together. And I think it would be a beautiful moment, since we don't really have a mention of Uncle Ben. We have few references here and there in the MCU, but we never really hear his name. And John Watts did say that if they were going to mention Uncle Ben, it would have to be the right moment and not just be a throwaway. So I think something like that, where they do mention Uncle Ben at first, where they could actually build up to that moment. And this could be one of the most emotional moments in the MCU too, since this Peter Parker has been through so much, and the fact that, you know, he lost like 3 father figures. If this is going to be a Peter focused film and the most personal film for Peter Parker in the MCU, you don't get more personal than Uncle Ben. Not to mention, it will also be awesome to see how Ben looks like in the MCU. But yeah, even though they also are bringing back Jamie Foxx as Electro, I still don't think it will be a Spider-Verse film. I still think it's going to be a Peter Parker film first and foremost, since it is his film, and it has to be grounded in a way where they have to deal with the post-credit scene like Far From Home, as that is the most important plotline for the film, that Peter Parker is looked as a villain and that he has to somehow clear his name. But one thing is for sure though, it's great to see the Dicker Bros together again. However, what about you guys? What role do you think Doctor Strange will play in Spider-Man 3? Let me know in the comments down below. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, and want more, subscribe. To begin, Spdrmnkyxxii.